The streets made him a monster, and the streets raised him. Ricky's earliest memories were of scavenging for food in dumpsters and avoiding the gaze of curious pedestrians. He had no family, no home, and no one to call his own. The streets were his playground, his provider, and his protector. As a child, Ricky learned to survive by any means necessary. He stole food from market stalls, slept in abandoned buildings, and fought off other kids who threatened his turf. He was a master of the streets, always on the lookout for the next meal or the next place to crash. As he grew older, Ricky began to notice the world around him in a different way. He saw how the wealthy lived in their fancy houses and apartments, how they drove their expensive cars and wore their designer clothes. He saw how the police and social workers seemed to care more about the wealthy than about people like him, struggling to survive. Ricky's anger and resentment grew with each passing day. He began to feel like the world was against him, like nobody cared about him or his kind. He started to lash out, picking fights with other kids, vandalizing property and stealing more than just food. One day, when Ricky was 15, he stumbled upon a crime scene. A young woman lay dead on the sidewalk, her body brutalized and discarded like trash. Ricky felt a strange sensation, a mix of excitement and curiosity. He watched as the police took away the body and processed the evidence, wondering what it would be like to be the one who had taken her life. Ricky's fascination with death and violence only intensified from that day on. He began to read about serial killers, studying their methods and motivations. He started to imagine himself as one of them, wondering what it would be like to hold someone's life in his hands and snuff it out. Years went by, and Ricky's fantasies turned into reality. He started small, targeting people on the fringes of society, prostitutes, drug dealers, and other street kids. He practiced his craft, honing his skills and evading detection. As the body count rose, so did Ricky's notoriety. The media began to call him the Shadow, a ghostly figure who stalked the streets and preyed on the vulnerable. The police were baffled, unable to catch a glimpse of the killer who seemed to appear out of nowhere and vanish into thin air. Ricky's final victim was a young mother, barely 20 years old. He lured her into an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, promising her a meal and a place to sleep. Instead, he tortured her for hours, watching as she begged for mercy and screamed in agony. When the police finally caught Ricky, he was 25 years old, with a trail of at least 15 bodies in his wake.